Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on and it was just pointed out. Indian Americans, in terms of the things that they would tend to vote on, are the same as other Americans, other minority groups, and the public as a whole. The thing that's been hurting Harris, and we see this in decline in support for Harris compared to Biden in the last election, is the performance of the perceived performance of the Biden administration. But the big party divide here, and this is something you haven't mentioned, the Carnegie survey reported that Indian Americans tend to lean to the left, and it looks like they lean to the left as much as or more than any other group in the United States, and that's pretty striking, and that may reflect the greater support for Democrats rather than Republicans, and you would see this by the head-on comparison between Nikki Haley and Kamala Harris.
But we're also hearing from that survey, Robert, some of which we asked our guests, Rick and Ajay, about, is the fact that that kind of lead or that love with towards Harris is somewhat weakening now, modestly. So where Trump is seen to be more in favor. So why do you think that's the case?
I tend to disagree with that.
I think
that's for Robert. Please, Robert, go ahead.
Oh no, I think what that's reflecting is that the election is really coming down to for many voters their assessment of the Biden-Harris administration, and that reflects the weakening of the support for Biden compared to 2020, and by inference here also Harris compared to Biden in 2020.
All right, just one quick question before we go here for Ajay, very quickly here. Let's look at how some of those people responded as far as the birthplace go. Now, amongst American Indian respondents born abroad, let's say India, both men and women, show high support for Harris, but the pattern really shifts when looking at US-born respondents. US-born women favor Harris hugely, but US-born men sharply support Trump. So why do you think that's happening?
So Kamala Harris, as I said earlier, has a personal connection to our community. As a daughter of Indian immigrant mother, her story reflects the struggles and aspiration of countless South Asians who have come to America and seek a better life. And that narrative, Harris has often shared.
Yeah, but why are young men not really supporting her anymore as much as they used to? Especially ones born in the US.
You know, there are so many polls out there, but on the ground situation, when we knock doors in Philadelphia, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Georgia, there's such a huge enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm can be seen at multi-level. That we have thousands of Indian American volunteers of all ages, from 60 plus to 30 plus to 20 young voters from 18 to age 18 to 30.
Okay.
They're all volunteering and knocking doors and making phones and calls. So what we are seeing in the ground reality is there's a huge enthusiasm for Kamala Harris. And I will add you on the economy.
Right.
We had one of the best economies.
Okay.
Where the stock market, if you look at the numbers, they're the highest. On the immigration issues, Kamala Harris and Biden have done so much for H1 visa stamping. Just one more minute. H1 visa stamping in US,
okay, so Ajay, we've got to leave it there, running out of time here. Ajay's choosing to see this on the brighter side of things. Ajay, thank you very much for your time. Rick as well. Robert, you're going to stay on. We have some more questions, get your neutral opinion on some other issues as well coming up later in the show, so do stay with us. Now, moving on to other news, with just 6 days until Election Day, officials are on high alert after ballot drop boxes were set on fire in Washington and Oregon. This concerns early mail-in ballots that are put into drop boxes around neighborhoods. Now in Portland and Vancouver, 2 drop boxes were torched. Most ballots in Portland were recovered, but hundreds were lost in Vancouver, where nearly 500 damaged ballots were later found. Now authorities are optimistic that they can identify most affected voters, but some believe other ballots may have been completely destroyed. Now joining me for more is Janet Keeney. She is from Vancouver in Washington State. She is one of the hundreds of people who found out that her ballot had been destroyed. Thanks, Janet, for your time this morning. Janet, what was your reaction when you heard this? And also, how did you hear about it that your mail-in ballot was destroyed?
Well, my reaction was shock and dismay. But what happened was I was driving Monday morning listening to my public radio and heard about the ballots being, the boxes being set on fire. And when they talked about which location it was, realized that that was where my husband and I had dropped our ballots off on Saturday evening. So immediately, tried to rectify that by calling the elections office, which were the instructions that were given, and have gone in and got new ballots. But I was very upset, dismayed, trying to do the right thing by voting early, and just very upset by that.
Okay, Janet, what happens now? What are officials telling you? What are you going to do?
Well, I've gone into the election office yesterday. I got a new ballot. I picked up a new ballot for my husband. I voted there and then, brought my other ballot home for my husband to fill out, and he will mail that in, or we will drop it off at the elections office. So things have been rectified. There were many people at the elections office within similar situations where their ballots had been destroyed. So it was good to see there was an outpouring of people trying to rectify the situation.
Right, thanks very much indeed. Janet Keeney there joining us from Vancouver in Washington State. She found out that her ballot had been destroyed, burnt actually, in a ballot box that was set aflame. Now, the White House seems to be in damage control mode after US President Biden in a moment defending the Puerto Rican community, seemingly called Trump supporters garbage. Now, while the White House quickly stepped in to clarify Biden's comments, arguing that he was describing the racist language as garbage, not Trump supporters. Now, Republicans have widely criticized the remarks, seizing the gaffe, comparing it to comments by Hillary Clinton in 2016 when she referred to Trump supporters as deplorables. Now, Biden's comments come in response to Trump's closing argument rally in New York over the weekend. One of the speakers at that rally referred to Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. Meanwhile, Republican nominee Trump has claimed that voter fraud is happening in 2 Pennsylvania counties, even though officials are still investigating voter registration issues there. With just a week until Election Day, Trump and the Republican National Committee seem to be preparing to challenge the results if he loses. Trump raised concerns on social media about fraudulent registrations before waiting for the investigations in certain counties there in Pennsylvania, despite Pennsylvanian authorities, the Secretary of State, for example, saying and asking for patience and that the matter is being investigated. Meanwhile, the latest CBS News poll reveals that both Trump and Harris are tied in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania. We are now joined by Robert Shapiro, who you saw earlier. Thanks, Robert, for staying on. He's a professor of political science at Columbia University. Robert, Trump and other Republican officials are increasingly floating these claims about potential issues with mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. State officials, as we said, reassuring voters of the integrity of the ballot process. How worried are you? And give us really an understanding of the gravity of the situation that Trump really wants us to believe is huge.
Yeah, well, what Trump seems to be doing is setting the stage for his declaring that the election is fraudulent if he loses. It's pretty clear that this has been his strategy all along, and what you see his claims right now in Pennsylvania doing precisely that, and the fact that we've seen fire set at ballot boxes that really reinforces the possibility here of complaints about the use of ballot boxes and any other changes that have been made in election procedures that Trump and his supporters think is working to his disadvantage.
But on the whole, how concerned are you about the integrity of the election process? Because there are several people who actually believe what Trump says as far as the whole election likely going to be skewed, especially, of course, paving that way, as you said, if he loses.
Well, with regard to the integrity of the counting of the votes and the determining the outcome of the elections, we saw in 2020 any claims of fraud were basically found to be unfounded in the courts. The 2022 election, by all accounts, was a free and fair election. Maybe it simply reflected the fact that the Republicans were able to gain control of the House of Representatives, even though they did less well than they expected. And the elections are run by basically diligent and fair-minded bureaucrats in states headed by Democratic governors. Of the process is excellent. The problem is having a candidate who is a sore loser.
Thanks very much indeed, Robert Shapiro there joining us this morning here on NDTV World. Now, in other news, while Washington Post and the LA Times have refused to endorse any candidate in the election, Puerto Rican newspaper El Nuevo Dia endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris following outrage after a speaker at former President Donald Trump's New York rally, as we said earlier, made offensive comments aimed at Puerto Rico on Sunday. The endorsement comes as both the Trump and Harris campaigns have been vying for the Puerto Rican vote, especially in battleground state Pennsylvania, where there are about 500,000 Puerto Rican voters, or Puerto Ricans actually live, one would say. And finally, the skeletons are on balconies and the goblins are all up and about, and the US is all set for Halloween, which is celebrated on October 31st each year. Tomorrow, it's a fun festival of ghostly decorations and people partying in all kinds of costumes. But given the elections are just days away, what's really spooking Americans this Halloween? I asked a few Halloween partygoers what they think.
The only thing that really politically spooks me this Halloween is inflation. I don't want nothing going up anymore. Thank you.
Raising taxes. I don't want to pay no more taxes.
The thought of a second Trump presidency, obviously.
No right to not get an abortion. That's what spooks me.
Donald Trump is very scary in his absolute love of Vladimir Putin. His rallies are pretty scary as well. I mean, there's nothing spookier than the Trump administration.
Okay, what are you dressed up as?
I'm actually from outer space. I'm a space traveler.
The fact that women's bodies are up for debate and what women do with their bodies, like that's so crazy to me, and it's so spooky because it's almost like a dystopian.
Trump demonstration. Anti-immigration, anti-abortion,
Yes.
Pro-life.
Exactly. So I am an immigration attorney, and I know that Trumping winning the election is going to be so spooky for us immigration practitioners, because I remember last time he just it was every day it was a new thing. He changed the law every day, and it was chaotic. So that's what spooks me.
And what are you dressed up as?
I'm Minion.
And you?
I'm Fiona, and this is my Shrek.
No right to not get an abortion. That's what spooks me.
I don't love how even Trump or Kamala Harris is speaking super neutral, not really speaking about what they believe in, just so they can win one or the other side.
And what are we dressed as?
Just a horse, a little cowboy. This is my horse, Chata.
End up choosing a leader that we believe in, and they don't end up executing on their promises. That spooks me. Undelivered promises.
Choosing what you think is right, but ends up not being the right decision for everybody else. Don't be selfish. Being selfish spooks me.
Defunding education and also the lack of concern over Gaza.
The war in Gaza going on right now and the U.S. sort of support for it is also really troubling. As a voter, it kind of sucks being between a rock and a hard place because neither candidate is ideal when you think about Palestinian issues and solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Who are we dressed as?
Just a princess on a unicorn.
So there you have it, lots haunting voters this Halloween. One caveat though, we spoke to people here in Washington, D.C., which tends to lean heavily Democrat. For NDTV World, Allister D'Souza, Washington, D.C.
That's it for US Election Watch, and before we go, happy Halloween to everyone, and here's also wishing all our viewers a happy Diwali. I'm Allister D'Souza in Washington, D.C.
Start earning cash back today. Sign up to Quidco. Get cash back every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
Those weeks that he came in, with the 3 weeks that I could be his little girl again, nothing I can do will repay Marie Curie for doing that for me. The amazing gift that they gave me was I was there at his last breath. He was there for my first. I will give everything back that I can to the hospice that gave me so much.
Give better end-of-life care to all. Get your free will guide today.
Hello. How was Iceland? It was good, I guess. Had a few issues here and there. Didn't you check Brighton? No, the sun wasn't bright at all. Iceland, you know.
Wait, you don't know Brighton?
They must have missed out on some seamless visa assistance.
Plus extra baggage allowance and 24/7 customer support.
I mean, there's a reason they're rated excellent on Trustpilot.
Brighton Travel, making travel brighter.
I've been thinking, I want to plan my funeral so it feels more like a celebration. My parents always said I was born dancing. I just love it. Bhangra, disco, even line dancing. So when my time comes, I want to have music, dancing, the lot.
With over 150 years' experience, you can count on Co-op Funeral Care to help you pre-plan the funeral you want. To find out more, visit Co-op Funeral Care or give us a call.
At Tesco Mobile, our deals are so good you'll want to tell everyone. Oops. Get our 100 gig SIM for just £14 a month with club card prices, saving you an incredible £84. And that price is frozen for your whole contract. Join the customers who saved £9.5 million with frozen prices last year. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Breaking. Some are being abandoned and will be left to die alone. For the donkey sanctuary, because terrible things are happening to donkeys. Please, do something incredible for them right now.
Kejriwal said Diwali is a festival of lights. It should be celebrated by lighting diyas
and candles instead of bursting firecrackers that cause pollution. At a time when the pollution situation across North India is plummeting, once again we look at the present situation in Delhi and whether it's just a matter of time, and I feel sad saying this, before the skies are noxious once again, as has been the case for years on end. Or can we actually have some sort of a miracle this time around? Next up on the program, it's one of the most alarming reports and among the most credible on the state of the globe in 2024 on account of climate change. The 2024 report of the Lancet Countdown on Health and Climate Change focuses on the escalating threats posed by climate change to human health. We'll be joined by one of the authors. The report highlights that people face record-breaking threats because of delayed action on climate change. Key findings suggest increases in heat-related deaths, food insecurity, the spread of infectious disease because of the climate breakdown. We'll share the key points. But also on the program, according to a Reuters news report, the gap between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the presidential race has narrowed to a single point, with Harris holding 44% support, Trump at 43%. The information reflects the dynamic nature of the election as the US moves closer to Election Day. Americans will cast their vote on Election Day, which lies on the 5th of November. Preliminary results might start coming in on election night, with some states potentially announcing their results. But it's not like our electronic voting machines. They don't have that in the US. So it could well be a more protracted process before we know who's won the elections. A quick look at the headlines at this hour. India and China have completed the disengagement exercise in the Depsang and Demchok friction points in the line of actual control in Ladakh. Patrolling will resume soon. The Chinese ambassador says he hopes that direct flights to Beijing resume soon. 7 elephants were found dead at the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. 3 are critical. Officials have rushed to the parks. Authorities suspect that the elephants ate fungus-infested millets, leading to food poisoning. And a grand Deepotsav celebration in Ayodhya, the first celebration after the consecration ceremony of the Ram Temple. 2 world records at Deepotsav, over 25 lakh diyas being lit, and 1,100 people performing the evening at the Saryu Aarti. Well, our big focus this program is on the situation in Delhi. Tomorrow is a day when usually the National Capital Region is engulfed with noxious smoke as a result of air pollution, crackers being burst, the impact of stubble burning, and a host of other air pollution sources. What's it going to be this time around on a day when Arvind Kejriwal has appealed to people saying, look, don't make it political, don't do that. We need to protect our lungs and our health, and please do not burst firecrackers. Joining us, Praveen Khandelwal, Lok Sabha MP of the BJP. I'm also joined by Siddharth Sharma of the Aam Aadmi Party and Dr. Akshay Budhraja, Head of Pulmonology at Akash Healthcare. Before I go across to them, let's just listen in to what the Aam Aadmi Party's Arvind Kejriwal had to say.
ये तो सभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का भी कहना है, हाई कोर्ट का भी कहना है, सभी कोर्ट्स का कहना है कि प्रदूषण के मद्देनजर जो है हमें पटाखे नहीं, हमें दिए जलाने चाहिए। ये लाइट्स का त्योहार है, ये दिए जला के, मोमबत्ती जला के हम अपना त्योहार मनाएं, ना कि पटाखे जलाएं। पटाखे जलाने से प्रदूषण होता है। प्रदूषण से कोई ऐसा नहीं है कि किसी पे एहसान कर रहे हैं, हम अपने ऊपर ही एहसान कर रहे हैं। जो प्रदूषण होगा वो हम ही उससे भुगतेंगे, हमारे बच्चे ही, छोटे छोटे बच्चे वही उससे भुगतेंगे। तो इसमें कोई हिंदू और मुसलमान और इसका कोई वो नहीं है। सबकी सांसें जरूरी है, सबकी जिंदगी जरूरी है।
देखो जी, पॉल्यूशन से बचने के लिए हर उपाय करना चाहिए, लेकिन जो एक दिन के त्यौहार को बैन करने की कोशिश कर रही है आम आदमी पार्टी, हम उसके खिलाफ हैं।
All right, let me go straight across to Siddharth Sharma of the Aam Aadmi Party. Siddharth, are you convinced? Do you believe that enough steps have been taken to prevent firecrackers from being burst this time around?
Yes, I think, Vishnu, right for the beginners, tomorrow, this season is Deepavali season, not Patakhavali season. And there are 3 angles to this cracker issue. One is a legal angle, the second is a social angle, and the third is the religious angle. As far as the legal angle is concerned, the Supreme Court has banned crackers across India 1 year ago. So it would it not be appropriate that in this program, Milord is there to justify that judgment. But since judges don't come to TV shows, will BJP tonight appeal in the Supreme Court to overturn it by tomorrow? Or better still, can I give a suggestion to our Prime Minister Modi ji to come at 10 o'clock on national television, and just like he announced lockdown or notebandi, the demonetization, he can as well come and announce that he has reopened the cracker ban. So the second is the social angle here. We all know that man is a social animal, yet during lockdown we also observed social distancing. That means that during even normal activities during abnormal times do change. That is the norm. During abnormal times, normal activities do cease. And as your Lancet report clearly said, considering the winter temperature inversion across North India, I think the Supreme Court gave a verdict about cracker ban, considering these things, not just for Delhi, but across India. And third angle is the religious angle that the BJP is, that's the BJP's favorite angle. Since Deepavali is celebrated to commemorate Lord Rama's coronation, why 21 lakh diyas only in Ayodhya? Why not 21 lakh crackers? Who is stopping BJP from distributing free crackers, 25
so
lakh
unfortunately,
crackers?
you know, all guns blazing on political grounds. Praveen Khandelwal, is it possible for the BJP or the Aam Aadmi Party or the Congress to look at the issue of protecting our lungs from any aspect other than politics?
Well, there are 2-3 things which needs to be taken care of. Point number one is, as my friend from Aam Aadmi Party was saying, that Supreme Court gave this order a year back. If the order was of year back, which I agree, then there was larger scope available for Aam Aadmi Party to find out alternatives. Even green crackers are also available, and they could have certainly find out, because bursting of crackers during Diwali is a long pending tradition of Hindu community. Why they are targeting Diwali, one day of Diwali for this purpose? My second point is, why when Mr. Kejriwal came out from Tihar, these Aam Aadmi Party persons burst crackers in a larger manner. So at that point of time, there was no issue of pollution. So they just want to twist the bursting of crackers. There are thousands of other occasions during the year when people burst crackers. Then why blanket ban? There could have been a ban for all those chemical crackers. But for green crackers, which are quite available in the market, and it is not pertaining, the pollution is not restricting only to Delhi, but other parts of the country as well. When other parts of the country are bursting crackers, why people of Delhi have been deprived on the most celebrated festival of the country, that is Diwali?
But Praveenji, how would you respond to those who say that air pollution doesn't differentiate? You know, I mean, it's not Hindu, Muslim, Christian. We all have one set of lungs. We have to protect it.
Vishnu, sir, my simple question is, if Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal was so considerate about busting of crackers, why the people of Aam Aadmi Party burst crackers on the whole night when Mr. Kejriwal was taken out from Tihar jail?
Praveenji, you have an important point. Siddharth Sharma, quickly reply before I go across to Dr. Buddhraja. Double standards over there, Siddharth Sharma. When Arvind Kejriwal gets out of jail, firecrackers, and now he's saying no firecrackers.
Yeah, I got the question. Point number one, the visuals never showed Arvind Kejriwal himself bursting any crackers. I suspect BJP burst it. That's why the Delhi police under BJP hasn't challaned a single rogue guy yet. So essentially, what is the bottom line here is that BJP is running with the hare and hunting with the hound, and it is proving itself to be an oxymoron. Because nobody is stopping BJP from distributing 25 lakh green crackers, as the Honorable MP just said. If green crackers are so green, what is stopping BJP from distributing free 25 lakh green crackers? And instead of going for 25 lakh diyas in Ayodhya, why isn't it going for 25 lakh crackers? That's the simple question. That's the simple question that the BJP is unable to answer. That's why I'm saying BJP is proving itself to be an oxymoron in this case. This is a Supreme Court order.
Let's
And the BJP is open.
I'm sorry.
Diwali is tomorrow.
I'm
BJP
sorry.
is open to challenge it tonight in the Supreme Court and get that cracker ban lifted
All
by
right,
tomorrow
okay, both of
morning.
you wait.
Or
Both
better
of you
still,
wait. I'll come back to you in a
Modi ji can
moment.
come at 10 o'clock in the night and
I'm
declare
not going
that,
to get into or use this platform to fight on a healthcare issue. Dr. Akshay Budraja, this time around, let us say in the last 1 month, are you seeing an uptick in your patients, with ailments directly linked to pollution?
Yes, so in the last 2 weeks, there is a significant rise in patients who had this similar complaints of breathing difficulty, cough, throat irritation, pneumonia in the last year. Now they are coming up. Although people are not burning firecracker, but the air quality has gone up. It has, even today's air quality is around 300. And it is not about, let's not politicize it. It is not about few people burning firecracker. It is about lakhs in people in lakhs who will burn fire.
Sent you. Right, go ahead.
It will surely increase the amount of air quality index, and it has a lot of metal, and it doesn't stay for just one day. It goes on for a few weeks, and the number of patients who come to us post Diwali is enormous, and they don't just require outpatient management, they require inpatient management, even oxygen support.
And do you, Dr. Budraja, could you, just for the benefit of our viewers, not just in Delhi, because this is an all-India phenomena, in some places have it worse than others, what exactly do chemicals used in firecrackers do to our lungs? And this isn't about Diwali only, it's about Christmas, it is about Eid, it is about weddings, it is about anything where firecrackers are burnt or lit. What does it do to our lungs?
So it exactly does what a worse air quality does to our lungs. It has a lot of chemicals, nitric oxide, sulfur dioxide. Firecrackers has barium. Now this barium is a type of a metal. And when you inhale such noxious particles, there is irritation in our airway, which it decreases our defense mechanism. In people who already have asthma, interstitial lung disease or COPD, they have any breathing difficulty in the past or they are allergic. In those people, there is inflammation of the airway. When the defense mechanism is decreased, it causes pneumonia. And in patients who are already suffering from asthma and COPD, they have recurrent flare-ups. So suppose a patient who has a flare-up during the normal times, they get improved in another 5 to 7 days. Such patients require inpatient management. They are admitted in ICU. They may require invasive or non-invasive ventilator, and they take around 14 days or 21 days. That is 2 to 3 weeks, and a lot of comorbidity comes with that.
Okay.
And again, it is not an acute thing. It causes a lot of chronic changes, especially in children who have a growing age, growing body, physical, as well as brain, as well as pregnant women and the elderlies. And these changes are seen over years, not just a day after Diwali.
Mr. Khandelwal, some in the Aam Aadmi Party have said that the police which comes under the centre has not done enough to prevent the inflow of crackers into Delhi from Uttar Pradesh and elsewhere. How would you respond?
It is a non-acceptable argument, and it amply speaks the failure of Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi. They are trying to escape from the liability. My simple question, I have put straightforward 2-3 questions. Number one, why crackers were burst by the Aam Aadmi Party when Kejriwal ji was taken out from Tihar? Supreme Court ruled this a year back. And since bursting crackers is a centuries-old tradition, what steps the Aam Aadmi Party took to ensure that the alternate crackers, whether it is green cracker or otherwise, why no policy was announced much before? And is there any logic of putting complete ban, blanket ban on bursting crackers? That means you are playing with the sentiments of the majority community. You are not allowing them to celebrate the festival in a traditional way. So,
but Mr.
these
Khandelwal,
are very important issues.
The balance between sentiments of communities and their healthcare, isn't the priority the healthcare of people and not sentiments?
See, my simple
I mean,
question
sentiments
is,
cannot necessarily save your life.
See, my simple question is, when alternate crackers were available in the market, and it is being used across the country, why Aam Aadmi Party failed to introduce?
You know, that's an interesting point. Dr. Buddhraja, are green crackers genuinely green? Are they safe enough to protect our lungs?
No. So they are not safe. They are, of course, reduce the amount of pollution caused as well as noise. It is around 30% lesser, but still it will add on to the worsening air quality.
Okay. All right, well, let's finally see what happens tomorrow. There are some small signs that as a result of reduced stubble burning, agricultural stubble burning in Haryana and in Punjab, the situation might be a little bit better, but we're already way past what the World Health Organization considers safe. Delhi, and not just Delhi, several parts of the Indo-Gangetic Plain will remain polluted one way or the other. And it just seems that until such time as air pollution becomes a political issue, people will continue to suffer. We're going to move on, and we're going to move on now to a somewhat related theme. And what we are really looking at this evening is one of the most alarming reports and among the most credible on the state of the globe in 2024 on account of climate change. The 2024 report of the Lancet Countdown on Health and Climate Change focuses on the escalating threats posed by climate change to human health. It highlights that people face record-breaking threats because of delayed action on climate change, and some of the key findings suggest increases in heat-related deaths, food insecurity, the spread of infectious diseases. Here are some key quotes that should have all of us very worried. For starters, the world is now dangerously close to breaching its target of limiting global multi-year mean heating to 1.5 degrees centigrade. Remember, the more we go above that 1.5 degree mark, the more likely it is that the changes will start getting to a stage when they are irreversible. And we don't want that because our entire way of living is different. The annual mean surface temperature reached a record high earlier this year of 1.45 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial baseline in 2023, and new temperature highs were recorded throughout 2024. That's how bad it actually was. The 2024 report of the Lancet Countdown, building on the expertise of 122 leading researchers from UN agencies and academic institutions worldwide, reveals some of the most concerning findings yet in the collaboration's 8 years of monitoring. So 122 leading researchers were actually a part of this. Now, one of the big concerns that have in fact arisen is that there is heat-related mortality of people older than 65 years of age. That has increased by a record-breaking 167% compared with the 1990s. And also another key factor in all of this, 151 million are experiencing moderate or severe food insecurity. But I'd like to come back to a couple of key points. Before that, 48% of land has been affected by at least 1 month of extreme drought. The key point over here on heat exposure is important, and I'd like to go through the next couple of points. Firstly, heat exposure is also increasingly affecting physical activity and sleep quality. That in turn affects physical and mental health. There's a record 6% more hours of sleep lost in 2023 than the average during 1986 to 2005. Now, these are all critical events. Heat affects physical activity and sleep. That is something which has actually been impacted as well. Now, the hot and drier weather conditions are increasingly favoring the occurrence of sand and dust storms. The weather environmental phenomena contributed to a 31% increase in the number of people exposed to dangerously high particulate matter concentrations between 2003, 2007 and 2018-22. And the average annual economic losses from weather-related extreme events increased by 23% rather, from 2010, 2014 to 2019 to 2023 to $227 billion. That's a value which exceeds the gross domestic product of about 60% of the world's economy. Again, that point on dangerously high particulate matter concentrations is important. one of the factors which actually impacts this is the burning of polluting biomass. For example, wood or dung, that still accounts for 92% of the energy used at home by people in low human development index countries. And of course, what we see in parts of North India, the occurrence of sand and dust storms. It is all very, very bad news. But we are joined at this stage by Nihir Dasandi, one of the authors of this report. We are joined by Sunita Narayan and Nagraj Adve as well, and the author of Global Warming in India and a climate change expert. Nihir Dasandi, one of the key concerns was that we were at 1.45 degrees centigrade, right? Just under that 1.5 degree cutoff, as it were. Does this basically mean sooner than later we will get into a situation where climate change will be irreversible?
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're already seeing the effects, as the report lays out, we're already seeing the huge effects that climate change is already having on people's lives around the world, in India. Yes, I mean, I think we're going to have to really think hard about once we breach 1.5. I mean, just to say that isn't to say once 1.5 is breached, all is lost. It's really important that we minimize how much the temperature exceeds that 1.5, and each small increase in temperature will make a huge difference on people's lives and their health. So it's a case of we really need to act to minimize that temperature rise.
Sunita, you've gone through the report. In your mind, the link between physical activity and heat, and even something which we may consider relatively irrelevant, sleep patterns changing, the physiological impact of climate change is something which the report actually talks about greatly. How important is this when we talk about the health of billions around the world? Sunita.
Oh, hugely. But I think there's another factor, Vishnu, which I'm sure the report would have considered as well. You know, the latest research that we did in this last very intense heat that we saw in most of India was the more worrying factor is that the nighttime temperature is not dropping. So there was always a difference between daytime temperature, which was always high, which would be high, but the city would cool during the night. And one of the biggest things that both the Lancet report and others are now pointing out to, the new science is telling us that what is really worrying is that the nighttime temperature not dropping has huge impact on mortality and well-being of people, because the bodies need time to cool down. Now, why is nighttime temperature not going down is also because of a factor of the urbanization. We're talking about more and more concrete in our cities. We're talking about more and more vehicles in our cities, because of which there is more and more fossil fuel burning, temperatures are going up. And more than that, and that's really what is worrying, is because as